Shalom, shalom, Israel. It's Brother Zabayelin.
Brother Marquez.
Coming back at you with another cold cut. It's going to be a part 2 to the Isaiah 19th chapter breakdown that we left off on verse 8, I believe. Left off on verse 8, so we're going to continue with the breakdown. See how far we can get through with the time constraint that we do have. So we're going to knock this thing out through the Spirit. All right. So I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. And let's get back into it, right? This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 8. And it's like I said, the fishers also shall mourn, and all that they cast angle into the brook shall lament, and they that spread nets upon the water shall languish. Moreover, they that work in fine flax and they that weave network shall be confounded. As we said, there's not going to be any work for Egypt. Read down to verse 15, it will tell you that. Right, bro? 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 44. Down to verse 45, to show that from your CEO all the way to your lowest position, there's not going to be any work. This economy is going to completely fail. The stocks are going to crash, the stock exchange, Wall Street, all of that is going to be vanity in that day. It's all going to be vanity, right? Verse 10, and they shall be broken in the purpose thereof, and all that make sluices and ponds for fishes. Surely the princes of Zoan are fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh become brutish. How say ye unto Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise and the son of ancient kings? And that's what they say. That's what the so-called white man says. He says he's the son of the wise, right? Doesn't he portray himself to be Christ, to Hamashiach? He says he's Ezekiel. He says he's Jeremiah. He says he's Isaiah. He says he's the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings. When he really is a base man, he comes from the caves. Look at the book of Obadiah. All right, let's see what the Lord said. All right, his counselors are going to fail in that day. All right, there's nothing they're going to be able to do about it. All right, this is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1. Let's start at verse 8. And it says, shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding of the amount of Esau? Right? The Lord says he's going to destroy their understanding, their science, right? Their so-called knowledge and wisdom that they have on the left-hand side. Right? They know that the Lord said, hey, in Ezekiel chapter 28, it says they're going to be wise. Thou art wiser than Daniel. So they have certain things, certain knowledge on the earth to do certain things. But the Lord said he's going to destroy that understanding out of the Mount of Esau. Right? And it says, in thy mighty men, O Taman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one in the Mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. And right? So let me read that again. In Isaiah chapter 19. Actually, let me go to Isaiah chapter 45. 47. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 47. And I'm going to start at verse number... see what I want. Verse 13. And it says, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. All right. Hey, and just like in ancient Egypt, they were trying to perform the same miracles as the Lord or as Moses, right, on behalf of the Lord. They was trying to make the water into blood just like Moses was. They was trying to do all the types of things that Moses was trying to do on the right-hand side, but they were doing it on the left-hand side. They were trying to say we have that knowledge too. We are the Most High too. All right? And it's actually, let me get that real quick in Isaiah 28 and 1. It's like Ezekiel 28 and verse 1. Let's see what they say. They portray themselves to be the Most High. That's why this country has to fall. This is Ezekiel chapter 28 and I start verse 2. Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am God. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. So that's what they do. They set their heart as the heart of the Most High. Verse 3, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thy understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased by riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches, right? Because the so-called knowledge and wisdom on the left-hand side, they got riches, they got treasures. They think they're the Most High. But the Most High said their heart has been lifted up. All right, so get that in Isaiah chapter 47 and verse 13. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Right? Yeah. So the wisdom and knowledge of the so-called white man is going to be desolate in the times to come. You got it.
That's right. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, and verse number 10. It says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, thou art also become weak as we, art thou become like unto us. So these other nations, when the Lord throws down the wisdom and the knowledge, the strength of America, you're going to have other nations saying, are you become weak as us? Right? Because again, everybody looks at America as this great country, right? As the kingdom of all kingdoms. So when America gets thrown down, everybody's going to be confounded. Again, they're going to say, verse 10 again, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? It says, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. It says, thou art fallen from heaven, O Lucifer. So the white man's rulership is heaven. The Lord said in due season, they're going to fall from that heaven, right? Fall from that rulership. And it calls them Lucifer. Why? Because they bear the light of this world, right? Lucifer just means light bearer. So America, they bear the light on the left-hand side of the world. So when the Lord throws down his light on the left-hand side, when the Lord overtakes America, these other nations are going to be confounded. It says, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation of the sides of the north. So this same man, talking about the so-called white man through the Spirit, he says these things. Right, I'm gonna mount up my rulership like the Most High. Right, I'm a rule this earth better than the Lord can ever rule it. And again, this is the mindset and how they think. That's why the Lord said in Isaiah 19, they have to get thrown down. That's why the Lord said he's gonna confound everybody, confound the princes of Zoan. Why? Because the princes of America, they're gonna go from being high and mighty, right, unstoppable, the so-called great nation, to be the lowest nation of all, right, burnt, utterly destroyed. It says, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation of the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High, right? And they say that they're going to be like the Most High, right? They are the Most High, right? You have men throughout, all throughout the Bible. For example, you got Antiochus Epiphanes. I believe his name, Epiphanes, that's what, who was like God or something to that effect. Right? Nevertheless, you have the white man professing that he is God. Right? You got, let me get this real quick in the book of Judith. Let me get this quick precept in the book of Judith. You had Nebuchadnezzar that said he was God, man. Right, this is the book of Judith. I believe that's the 5th. Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Judith, chapter 2, and verse number Salakia. I have to find that. All right, but let me go to the book of Romans, the classic, the 9th chapter. All right, let's go to Romans, the 9th chapter. I have to find that later. It's the book of Romans, chapter 9, and verse, right, Romans, chapter 9, and I'm going to start at verse number 17. It says, for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up. And little does America know that the Lord raised them up. The only reason the Lord raised them up was to punish Israel. So it said, what for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even this for this same purpose I have raised thee up, that I might shew my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. So ultimately the Lord only raised up America so his name can get declared throughout all the earth. It says what? Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth. Let's go to Exodus chapter 9 and verse 16. Real quick. So the Lord is hardening America's heart. Again, that's why when they find out that they've been so-called bamboozled, right? They only got risen up to fall down. Everybody in that day is gonna know the name of the Most High, right? From the lowest to the greatest. When they say Yahweh Shah coming through, he cracking open the sky, and America sees their downfall coming upon them, everybody's gonna be confounded. This is the book of
Judith 3 and 8 too.
3 and 8. Con, you can bring it up.
Con, this Judith 3 and 8. Oh, you got it first.
Con, I'm gonna bring this quick precept. Exodus chapter 9 and verse 18. It says, "Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain. This time will I cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as had not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even unto now." Right, and the Lord is gonna have that same plague come upon modern Egypt, and confound the princes, confound the wise men, the same way how he confounded Pharaoh's wise men. Right, but you got it.
This is Judith 3 and 8. And it says, "Yet he did cast down their frontiers and cut down their groves, for he had decreed to destroy all gods of the land, that all nations shall worship Nebuchadnezzar only, and that all tongues and tribes shall call upon him as God." Right?
Kanye, so that's plain. You had Nebuchadnezzar, he got lifted up in his pride. Why? Because he overtook the nations. The Lord used them to overcome certain nations, and namely to put Israel in subjection. But through his pride, he was lifted up, and that's how the spirit of the so-called white man is. Right? The Lord, he gave them leeway. Now they call themselves God. Now the Lord has to overthrow you. Right? You got it.
All right. All right, so go back to that in Isaiah chapter 19. All right. It's Isaiah 19:12. "Where are they? Where are thy wise men? And let them tell thee now, and let them know what the Lord of hosts hath purposed upon Egypt." Right? So the Lord likes to talk his stuff. The Lord be talking his stuff a little bit, man. Right? And it says, verse 13, "The princes of Zoan are become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived." And Zoan and Noph, those are two chief cities in Egypt, like Chicago or Memphis. You actually get this Memphis, the city Memphis in America, and Memphis, Tennessee, from Memphis, Egypt. Right? That was actually an ancient city back then. Right? But these are two chief cities in ancient Egypt. Right? But we know on a spiritual level, this is talking about Babylon. Right? And it says, "The princes of Zoan are become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof." And they seduced us. They seduced everybody here. They seduced the other nations. Let me go to the book of Jeremiah 51. Why do you think the nations are mad? They drunk of the wine of Babylon. What happens when you drink too much wine? You become drunk. All right? It's Jeremiah chapter 51. And I start at verse 6. I start at verse 7. "Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken." Right? That made all the earth drunken. "The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad." Yeah, I mean, they would be mad. And when you wake up and you was hungover, you told yourself you're not going to drink, but then you start to remember certain things. Like, well, hold on, I wasn't, this person kept doing this. Well, this person was doing this. And this person gave me the drink, and they kept pushing it on me. And then you start to get upset every time you think about it. Right? These nations are starting to wake up now. Now they're like, wait, hold on. There's something not adding up. You can be this and that at the same time. You can be you can have pronouns now. Wait, what is this? Right? And now guess what? The nations are getting upset because now they left their traditions to come into a harlot. They left their garment, their covering to be naked in America. They left their God and came here and served a whore, man. So these nations are upset. That's what this wine does, right? It seduces you, and it seduces the stay of the tribes thereof. Jake is completely seduced in America. Jake, I mean, this is his home, right? He loves it here, right? But guess what? This woman is going to drink her own wine. It's going to tell you that, right? And it says, verse 14, "The Lord have mingled a perverse spirit," Isaiah 19:14. "The Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit." And that's what happened. America started drinking of that wine they were giving all the other nations, right? Let me go back. Let me go to Proverbs chapter 7. It's Proverbs chapter 7. Actually, it's Proverbs 23, sorry. It's Proverbs chapter 23. And I'm going to start at verse... I'm going into that wine. I'm trying to see. So 23. Bear with me. Let me get this precept real quick. Because this woman is drunk. All right. Let me see. What is that? Proverbs 7. Going into the wine and the redness thereof. I'm trying to see. That's okay if I can't get it. All right. But the point is, America's staggering in every work based off the wine that she drinks. Because what happens when you drink a lot? When you drink a lot, you start to err judgment, right? That's why in Proverbs 31:3, Lemuel's mother tells him this, right? It's Proverbs, right, chapter 31 and verse 3. And it's verse 4. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink strong drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. And that's what America did. They started to drink. I thought they were God, though. I thought they were the king, right? I thought they were the police of the earth. But when you start drinking of that wine, you start erring in judgment. You start doing things that's just a little bit strange. You start making certain decisions. I mean, just look at the decisions America's making now. They're trying to go to war with two major superpowers knowing they can't do it. You got the elites pushing Sleepy Joe to go to war. You literally have that happening as we speak. And you know what? And it's happening. And nothing can, and they can't do anything about it, man. War will happen. One, because America is on its last toe. They need money and war makes money. But they, on the other end, know they're going to lose the war. I found this Proverbs chapter 23, and I'll start at verse 29. Who have woe, who have sorrow, who have contentions, who have babbling, who have wounds without cause, who have redness of eyes. They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. And that's mixed wine, you mingle in wine. The Lord mingled a perverse spirit in the midst of Egypt. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth as a serpent and stinketh like an adder. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thy heart shall heart shall utter perverse things. And America is now is now uttering perverse things on the earth, man. Making carnal, simple, childlike judgments. These other nations look at America, are you okay? Well, what's going on? But they start to drink of that own wine that they have mingled for the other nations. They have mingled for Jake, Eve, and America. They started to drink of that wine, and now their judgments are off. They'll mess around, start releasing Israelites. Here, hey, go back to your God anyway. And they'll forget, right? You got it.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 17, and verse number 6. It says, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. So America, on one fold, they're drunk on a spiritual level. Why? Because, again, all the wine that they fed to these other nations, ultimately they deceive themselves, right? America, they literally through their pride has deceived themselves for them to think that they can rule forever, right? They can rule forever, never gonna fall. Mightiest nation to ever walk the planet. Again, these are the thoughts that America thinks of themselves. Puffed up. Again, the brother brought it out in Judith, the third chapter, Judith 3:8, how Nebuchadnezzar called himself God. Right? So let me get this real quick in the book of First Esdras, the third chapter. Right? Because again, when you're drunk, your judgment is all off. Again, like the brother was saying, America has the worst judgment going on right now. If you're watching, if you're paying attention to different things that's coming to pass, you see that America's judgment is off. They got 1,000 different genders. They let in damn women. You got homosexuals in your army, right? You getting overcome. You giving all your weapons to another country, right? To so-called Ukraine. And they still losing the battle. You giving all your weapons to Ukraine. You damn in debt, billions of dollars. I mean, what? I mean, literally, what are you doing? You in debt billions of dollars, you still giving away weapons. Right? But nevertheless, let's get this real quick in 1 Esdras, the 3rd chapter. This 1 Esdras 3:17. It says, and he said unto them, declare unto your mind concerning the writing. Then began the first who spoke of the strength of wine. So wine has strength in it. So when you pervingle that wine, I mean, when you, it's like I said, pervingle. When you damn stirring up that wine and you having perverse judgment, that wine is gonna stir your spirit up for you to go off. American has been going off for over 400 plus years. So that only lets you know that their downfall is soon to come. Because only again, how much more could you just go off? You read in Revelation, the 18th chapter, right? Let me get this real quick. Revelation chapter 18 and verse number, I'm going to start at verse 4. It says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. So eventually the Lord is going to remember the sins of Babylon, right? The sins of America. As soon as her iniquities, her false judgments, her false accusations, the unjust killings, the slayings, the murders, the robbery, when the Lord receives that in the third heavens, he's going to overthrow them. And again, they're doing that all through that perverse wine that they've been drinking, deceiving themselves. Right? Reading on in 1 Esdras, the 3rd chapter, verse 18. It says, and he said, thus, O ye men, how exceeding strong is wine. It causeth all men to err that drink it. And not just America is drunk, but they've gotten every nation drunk. And every nation has erred through the philosophies and through the rudiments of Babylon the Great. All right, let me get this other quick precept in Habakkuk chapter 2. Let's go to Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse number 15. It says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. So America, again, they've been giving every nation some this nasty drink. Now every nation is naked, right? And sin, exposed. And now America is slowly being revealed, slowly getting exposed day by day, right? Revealing and letting the world know that they're not that high mighty nation. That they're not that nation that they used to be in the 70s, right? In the 1800s, right? During the Jim Crow era. They're not that strong nation that they were before. Why? Because the Lord is showing their nakedness. Let me get this real quick in the book of Isaiah chapter 5. Like Isaiah chapter 5 and verse number 11. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 5 and 11. Woe unto him that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue unto night to wine and flame. Right in that spiritual, it said that rise up early all the way into night. America, they rose up early, right? They rose up early. You got 1492 when Christopher Columbus, he came over. You got 1776 where they established their independence. That's their early age. And they've been ruling for over so-called 400 years. And this is their latter age, where they're slowly falling and they're still indulging in that wine. The Lord said, when you drink that strong drink from, let me read that again from the top. It said, woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink and continue unto night till wine inflame them. The Lord said, if you're doing that, it's woe unto you.
Right.
Meaning death and destruction. So again, all throughout the precepts, we see America's latter end is death and destruction. Right, you got it.
All right. All right, that's exactly right. So you know that wine, America's off that wine right now, man.
That yan.
Right, that yan, as the brother said. All right, it's Isaiah chapter 19, verse 15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. And we went into that in verse 7 or 8. There's not going to be any work. I'm going to get Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and 3 real quick. All right. This should kind of get one more witness on that precept. It's Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, who's the keepers of the house? The keepers of the house is those that uphold this economy. Your engineers, your electricians, your doctors, right? And all those, the construction workers, these big construction companies, they're the keepers of the house. When you keep the house, you upkeep the house, right? They're going to be confounded. They're going to tremble. And the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Because what happens when you quit? When a lot of people quit a job, then the men that didn't quit, they're left with the task thereof. And guess what? They're going to eventually quit too, because nobody's going to want to work. Everybody's going to be trying to do their own thing. And so that company's going to be shut down. And that's how a lot of the companies and businesses in America is going to work, right? The grinders are going to cease. And it says, and the windows be darkened. Verse 4, and the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all their daughters of music also shall be brought low. So there's not going to be any sound of the grinding. No work again for Egypt. All right, let me go back to Isaiah 19:15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the branch or tail, head or tail, branch or rush may do. In that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord of hosts, which he shaketh over it. Because the Lord's going to be rebuking this place, man. And Egypt going to be like unto women, crying, can't do nothing, right? Verse 17, and the land of Judah shall be a terror unto Egypt. Everyone that maketh mention thereof shall be afraid in himself because of the counsel of the Lord of hosts, which he have determined against it. In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan, and swear to the Lord of hosts. One shall be called the city of destruction. So what is that going into? You have 5 specific cities in America, right? 5 specific cities where men are going to start speaking Phoenician, speaking Hebrew, right? The Lord chose Los Angeles. The Lord chose New York, Miami, Chicago, and Atlanta. And you just have certain men speaking the language. That's not what that's talking about, right? It says, in that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan and swear to the Lord of hosts. Meaning you're going to have a certain amount of Israelites come back to their language, come back to their heritage, and come back to their nationality, right? That word, that 5, let me actually go to Matthew 25:5. 5 and 1. 5 is just a certain amount. It's just a partial amount of 10. 10 is a whole amount. 5 is just a portion of 10, right? You have Matthew chapter 25 and verse 1. Let's prove that. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be like unto 10 virgins, right? A whole amount, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. You had some that were wise. You had some that were foolish, right? This meaning a certain amount. Let me get the book of Revelation chapter 9. All right. This is the book of Revelations, chapter 9. And let me start at verse 5. And to them it was given, that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was at the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man, right? So that 5 months is not a literal 5 months. It's just going into a certain dispensation of time, right? Or a certain portion of time out of 10. All right, so let's go back to Isaiah chapter 19. All right, in verse 18. In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan and swear to the Lord of hosts, right? So you're going to have a certain amount of Israelites on the earth in America come back to who they are, come back to their nationality. That's why you see Israelites waking up at a very high level. I mean, the greatest awakening you have ever seen. You have Israelites coming back to who they are, right? Coming back to their nationality as Hebrews, Israelites. Right? And it says, one shall be called the city of destruction. Verse 19, in that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. Right? And Esau, when they read this verse, they're literally trying to build a temple. They're literally trying to build an altar. What happened? I thought we were the temple of God. Right? And what happens when you have an altar? You throw up sacrifices on the altar. Right? Let me go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 1. All right, we're building the temple now as we speak. Real quick, let me go to the book of 1 Peter. All right, this is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 1. It's like it's 2 Peter. No, this is 1 Peter. This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2 and verse 5. You also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, right? So we're stones building up a spiritual house on the earth, right? A spiritual altar, right? It's not physical, right? In holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to the Most High by Yahweh Shah Mashiach. All right, so we're building up that altar as we speak. Let me get a classic 1 Corinthians 3:16. This is the 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 16. Know you not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. So we are the temple of the Most High God. So as a body, when we're built this altar, we offer sacrifices upon that altar. Now, what sacrifice is that? Sacrifices are prayer, crying unto the Lord. When the Lord hears our cries, we're offering sacrifices based on how he hears our cries, man. We're not literally offering sacrifices because it's not a literal temple. Right? You can get the book of James real quick. James chapter 5. It's James chapter 5 and verse 4. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cry of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. So when we're crying to the Lord, when you're throwing up prayers into the Most High, that altar now that's being built is now you're now building sacrifices upon that altar, throwing sacrifices up to the Lord or upon that altar. What you got?
It's the classic. It's the book of Hosea, chapter 1, and verse number 10. Right, because like the brother was bringing out, when you read Isaiah 19 and 19, that altar that's building up in the land of Egypt, on another that's another way of saying Israel waking up in their captivity. He brought out 1 Corinthians 3 and 16. We are the body of the Lord. You read that in 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter as well. Right, but this Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10, it says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. So in the same place in our captivity, we're said we're not God's chosen people, right? We nothing but proverbs and bywords. In that same place, the Lord is gonna wake us up, and we're gonna become the sons of the living God, like how we were before. Right? Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 1. It's the book of Zechariah, chapter 1, and verse number 19. Get right to the point. It says, and I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which Judah scattered. So which scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem, talking about the other nations. Right? They scattered us to the four corners of the earth. Right? Verse 20. And the Lord showed me 4 carpenters. Right? The carpenters are the men and the builders. Right? That built up this spiritual temple. Right? Reading on, it says, then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are come to fray them away, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. So these 4 carpenters it's not a literal 4. It's talking about an infinite amount of men that's coming back to build up the nation. Where are they going to build up the nation? In our captivity, where we've been trodden down, in a place where we're scattered, where the Gentiles scattered us, these 4 horns scattered us, right? In that same place, and these same places, are these carpenters going to come and build up Israel again, right? Come and build up this altar. Let's get this in the book of Matthew, chapter 26 and verse 61. It says, I'm going to start at verse 61. It says, and said this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. Right? So you have men that, you have false witnesses that said that they lied on the Lord and said that the Lord is going to build up the temple in 3 days, but they didn't know what that was going into. Right? On a spiritual level, the Lord, he's building up the temple now. Right? Waking up Israel through his words. Right? Having his servants go out on the highways and byways. How the videos been putting out. Have men given back to the people, breaking down the precepts. This is the Lord building up the temple. Right? And again, you read in Isaiah the 19th chapter, that's another way of saying Israel is waking up in the land of their captivity. And again, you go through the precepts, you find out that all throughout the precepts, how it's prophesied that we're going to wake up in the land of our captivity. The Lord said, let me get this in Jeremiah 50 real quick. It's Jeremiah 50 and verse 33. It says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that held them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that they may give rest in the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. Right? And you have Judah and you have Israel literally together in captivity. And in this last captivity is where we're going to come back together and rebuild the nation through the spirit and power of the Most High God. Right, you got it.
That's right. That's right. So let's go back to Isaiah chapter 19. Right. So Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 20. And that shall be for a sign and a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt, for they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors. And we just read that. And he shall send them a savior and a great one. He shall deliver them. Talking about Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Right. And the Lord shall be known to Egypt. And the Egyptians shall know the Lord in that day, and shall do sacrifice and oblations. Yea, they shall vow unto the Lord and perform it. And the Lord shall smite Egypt, he shall smite and heal it. And they shall return even unto the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them, and he shall heal them. And that's what the Lord does. He will bring us down, and then he will bring us back up. He will punish us. But after our punishment, the Lord will put glory upon us again. All right? The Lord has done that. Right? And it says, actually, let me get a precept. Let me go to Hosea real quick. Get one quick precept on that. All right. It's the book of Hosea. See if I can find this precept. If not, that's okay. Hosea.
Verse 21 or 22.
Huh?
Verse 21 to 22. Isaiah.
No. Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 22. This is Hosea chapter, shall smite and he shall heal it. 5. This Hosea 6 and 1. Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn and he will heal us. He hath smitten and he will bind us up. And that's what happens. The Lord, like I said, will tear us apart with slavery, punishments, judgments. But at the end of the day, the Lord's not going to cast us off forever. The Lord will heal us. Right? He will bind us up and have us return into our glory. Right? Read the book of Lamentations. Right? This is Lamentations chapter 3 and verse 30. He giveth his cheek to him that smiteth him. He is filled full with reproach. For the Lord will not cast off forever. But though he cause grief, yet we have compassion according to the multitude of his mercies. So that's what the Lord does to our people. We've been smitten down with slavery. Right? We've been smitten down and destroyed with different Jim Crow laws and different atrocities you have to go through in this world, in America. But now we're in the time of healing. We're in the time of the men out there on the highways and byways healing the nation. All right. So let me read that again. Isaiah 19:22. And the Lord shall smite Egypt, and he shall smite and heal it. And they shall return even to the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them, and shall heal them. And that day shall be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria. And to the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. And that day shall Israel be third with Egypt, and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land. I can hear the Christians now. Oh yeah, see the Lord saving everybody, not just Israel. They don't know nothing about the Old Testament, but they love that verse right there. The Egyptians and the Assyrians. Only those two specific nations the Lord chose, right? They're going to be in the kingdom too. That's not what that's talking about, right? Those which represents the two major slaveries of our people, that our people were under, right? Let me go to the book of Lamentations 5 and 6. All right. This is talking about the Israelites, right? This is Lamentations chapter 5 and verse number 6. All right. And it says, we have given the hand to the Egyptians and the hand to the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. right? Because the Assyrians represent the captivity, northern kingdom, and the Egyptians represent our first captivity, one of our biggest captivities. So it's talking about the Israelites that were in those captivities. The Lord is going to save. He's going to bring out the outcasts of Israel, right? Let me get that in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11. All right, it's Isaiah chapter 11 and verse number 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand against the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth, man. So the Lord's saving the Israelites out of Egypt and out of Assyria. So when he's mentioning Egypt and Assyria, he's talking about Israel. He's not talking about all the other nations. He's not talking about literally the Egyptians. Why would the Lord destroy the Egyptians and then save the Egyptians? That doesn't make any sense. The Lord hates the Assyrians. He's not dealing with them. Right? Isaiah 10 and 25 shows you Isaiah chapter 14. The Lord's not dealing with these other nations. All right, so he's talking about the Israelites. Let me get one more precept. All right, this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 10. I'm going to keep going, bro. This is crazy. I wish I had my precepts, man. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 10. All right, it's Zechariah 10 and 10. And I will gather them again also of the land of Egypt, and gather them out of Assyria. Now that's plain, right? And it says, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them. And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up. And the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. Right? So that's talking about Israel. It's not talking about all the nations. When you read that verse, don't be confounded. Right, to understand what the Lord is talking about when he's saying those two nations. What you got?
That's the book of 2 Kings, chapter 17, and verse number 7. It says, then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom he brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let them teach them the manner of the God of the land. Right, so you read 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, you see northern kingdom getting taken into captivity. I'm going to actually jump up to verse number 16. Right, I'm going to jump up. Let me see if that's what I want. I'm going to jump up. Let me see. I'm going to jump up to verse 1 to get the context. Right, 2 Kings chapter 17. I'm sorry, verse 3 actually. And it reads, against him came up Salmanassar, king of Assyria, and Hosea came and became a servant and gave him presents. Right, so you literally have northern kingdom being taken into captivity. When you go into the history, Egypt and Assyria was Israel's first two major captivities. Read that in Exodus, the first chapter, how we went into slavery. The second major captivity was Assyria, and 722 when the northern kingdom went into slavery. So that's not literally, we read Isaiah 19 talking about, that's Egypt and then the Assyrians. Why would the Lord love the Assyrians and Egyptians and the Assyrians and Egyptians if they had our people in slavery? Beating the Lord's people. Right? Again, that you obviously have to use some type of wisdom and discernment. And again, Christians don't have wisdom or discernment. They just read and they just go off their own heart. Why would the Lord again love the same nation of people that had his people in captivity? But jumping down, 2 Kings chapter 17, I'm going to jump to verse 36. It says, but the Lord who brought you up out of the land of Egypt with great power and a stretched out arm, him shall ye fear, and him shall ye worship, and him shall ye do sacrifice. Right, I'm going to go to verse 29. It says, howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the house of the high places, which the Samaritans, right, the northern kingdom, had made every nation and the cities wherein they dwelt. It says the men of Babylon made Succoth Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima. Right, and you keep reading, you see how the Assyrians, not just the Assyrians, but you had other nations of Babylon, right? The Babylonians and these other nations that it lists, They literally came into Israel, besieged Israel, and set up their own gods. And what happened? Israel took on the name of these gods, the name of these men. So when you see in Isaiah 19 where it calls them the Assyrians, it calls them Egyptians, that's literally talking about the Israelites. That's plain. You got it.
All right. It's Isaiah 14:25. That I will break the Assyrian in my land. Wait, why? If the Lord's going to save the Assyrians, but in Isaiah 14, he says he's going to break the Assyrians in his land. So wait, hold on. So he's going to take the Assyrians with Egypt and bring them into the land of Israel and then break the Assyrians. I thought they were going to be saved. He said, I will break the Assyrian in my land and the mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them and his burden depart from off their shoulders, because they had us in slavery. So when the Lord's talking about the Assyrians, he's only talking about us being in Assyria or being in Egypt as a kind of sense to us being in slavery, and the Lord is going to save the Israelites. That's all it's talking about. So let's go back to Isaiah chapter 19 now that we have the full understanding.
I got one more point.
Okay.
You read in Isaiah 37, the Lord destroyed the Assyrians. With 185,000 Assyrians that died in one day by a death angel. How's the Lord coming to save them when he killing 185 overnight?
Right.
So you got it.
So it's Isaiah 19:24. In that day shall Israel be third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land. Meaning the northern kingdom and southern kingdom will come back together. Verse 25, whom the Lord of hosts shall bless, saying, blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, mine inheritance. And with that was the Isaiah chapter 19 breakdown, mighty breakdown through the Spirit. We'd like to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. All right, Lord willing, we'll come back with some more breakdowns, come back with some more breakdowns for you guys. Lord willing, you was edified, right? I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Right, Zabba Yahweh.
Brother Marquaz.
All right, let's be everybody. Shalom.
Shalom.